Good evening, viewers. We welcome you to the new episode of Beyond the Headlines. Today, we have a very special guest. A guest who was brought up in Shillong in the 50s. But now, that particular guest is occupying one of the most picturesque residences of Shillong, the Raj Bhavan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce to you Shri Tathagata Roy, the Honourable Governor of Meghalaya. Welcome, sir, to this program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. For once, I'm taking off my mask for a few seconds just to let the viewers know what I look like. Thank you.
Sir, back in the days when you were a young boy, you grew up in Jail Road, and now as Governor of Meghalaya, and the distance is not far from where Jail Road is
Not
and
at all,
where
no.
Raj Bhavan is.
No.
Did you ever think back then that one day you would be the occupant of this beautiful...
Oh, absolutely not. I couldn't think of it in my wildest dreams. You see, in those days, we would go to take a walk by the side of the lake. And then from the side of the lakes, my mother or my grandmother would point to the Raj Bhavan and say, see, that is where the governor lives. And the governor at that time was Jairam Das Daulatram. And I was, how old was I? Some 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And I used to wonder, my God, what a man he should be. To live in a mansion like that, surrounded by all this greenery, but then now I am here. Fate takes strange turns. In fact, I was first posted in Tripura, and I thought that I'd spend my entire 5 years over there. Then I came to Shillong. My tenure was supposed to end on the 20th of May this year. But then because of this corona, it has been extended. It will be extended for some time. That is what I've been told. So here I am, by a quirk of fate.
So, how do you see the Shillong of the 1950s and the Shillong of now?
Not the same. Unfortunately, somewhat worse. I'll tell you how. First thing, I don't know where to begin, but let me say, first thing, I miss the Assam type houses. In those days, all the houses in Shillong used to be Assam type, and they had blended with the surroundings in such a beautiful way that just looking at them would be a pleasure. And even when as late as in 1957, when my uncle built a house in Laimukra, he had built it as an Assam type house, and I still remember the patter of the rain on the corrugated iron roof, and it was a different feeling altogether. And then these concrete monstrosities with their flat roofs came along and then changed the entire look of Shillong. That is one thing that I resent very much. I mean, it had to happen, changes, things never remain the same. It had to happen, but then makes me unhappy. Second, one thing that makes me very unhappy is the state of the river Umkra. It was tied with my childhood. We used to refer to it as the river, Umkra. And we used to walk along the Umkra, sometimes we used to wade onto it. We used to cross it by the bridge which leads to the Pasteur Institute. My uncle used to work in Pasteur Institute, and go to the other side. Then there is another bridge near the polo. In those days there used to be the race course, where these barracks are there now, I think CRPF barracks. There used to be a race course, and every Saturday, there used to be a race, and it was quite a sight to watch. The whole of the polo ground was greenery. There were no stadia or any such thing. And it was a beautiful sight. Beautiful sight, I missed that. particularly the river has been turned into an open sewer. That is a thing that I find horrible. Then some time back I was invited by some public-minded people, notably Khong Patricia Mukhin. She wanted to, she mounted a campaign to clean the banks of the river near Spread Eagle Falls. And I went there and I lent a hand because I felt very strongly about this thing, drug menace. And I had worked in this drug rehabilitation thing in Kolkata for a short while. It was a long time back, but I know what a terrible, terrible thing drugs are. So when Khong Patricia came to me and requested me, then I thought that this is a thing that I should participate in, and I participated. So that is, the river is one thing that I miss. The architecture, this thing, and of course the congestion, the traffic jam, these are quite bad. But when I go to places like the road leading to Upper Shillong, or the older parts of Laimukra, I still get a taste of old Shillong. You know what it was like? I mean, I'm getting into a bout of nostalgia.
Yes, sir.
But I used to walk. I was very fond of walking. I still am fond of walking. I used to walk from my uncle's house in Laimukra all the way to Happy Valley. And a little after crossing the fire brigade, all habitation ended. It was just pine forests. There is a huge U-turn of before the road to Madantring takes off, there's a huge U-turn. And that U-turn was a beautiful thing to see. I used to walk along that U-turn, go to the other side, walk to Happy Valley, then walk to Sweet Fall. Beautiful times, wonderful times. And wonderful Shillong. Golf links was, of course, very beautiful. The Mauro and Mopat, they were tiny villages. And the forest came much nearer to the golf club, and there was a sort of a red pathway, red earth pathway leading into the forest. Beautiful sight. All these things I miss. I have not mentioned my family connections. Both on my father's side and my mother's side, we have been residents of Shillong for almost close to a century. My maternal grandfather, H.C. Dutt, he was a engineer in the Assam PWD, and he was involved in the construction of the bridge across the Umangot River at Dauki, and also in the construction of the Guwahati-Shillong Road. Actually, he contracted silicosis from working in the dust, and he died very early. My uncle on my father's side, my father's elder brother, he was a doctor and pathologist in Pasteur Institute. And then after he retired from there, he started practicing. He had a thriving practice as a doctor. First he lived in Lower Jail Road, then he built a own house in Laimukra. He died at the age of 83, and my aunt died at the age of 103. So they were there until that time. My cousin, that is my uncle, my paternal uncle's son, he was a professor in St. Anthony's College. He was known as Harold Roy. The older people here would know him. Actually, I was quite pleasantly surprised. One day I went to this Ramakrishna mission in Sora. There I met an elderly lady, a very pleasant person called Khong Biloris Lindema. And she very fondly remembered him. She used to know him. He taught there until the 80s. He died sometime around 2001 or 2002. So these are the connections that I had. I had a lot of other people also, a Mosa of mine who used to live in Motinagar, a Mama of mine who used to live on GS Road, then several other people, near and distant relatives here and there, Laban, Jail Road, Umpling, Lumparing, all these places.
We are meeting at a very unprecedented time.
That's right.
The time of Corona,
Yes.
which has created devastation across the world.
Yes.
So as governor of the state, how do you see the way the Meghalaya government and the people are handling this pandemic?
See, on the whole, I think Meghalaya government is doing its best. See, this is a thing of which the whole world knows nothing. Okay? Nobody knows anything about it. Nobody knew anything about it. When the first lockdown was imposed on the 25th of March this year, we thought that the Prime Minister announced that it was for 3 weeks, and we thought that by 3 weeks it would be over. Then we have understood what it is like now. It has been 3 months. It's showing no signs of being over. On the other hand, it's galloping up. So, in these circumstances, in the totally unknown milieu, I think the government has been doing a very good job. The health minister, Alexander Laluhek, is a person I have known for a very long time. He's a very hardworking person, very conscientious person. And he has been, the way he has been applying himself to his job, I have only praise for him. The doctors here also are doing a good job. About the public, I cannot be that complimentary because I have seen places like Police Bazaar and Yuda and Motfran, crowded places, people getting close to each other, then certain very, very irresponsible things like that wedding party, which had brought a lot of infection to the state. And certain things which I don't think were deliberately irresponsible, but they just happened, this BSF, infection brought by the BSF Jawans. It had happened in Tripura also. Tripura and Meghalaya, they had both become COVID-free at one point of time. Then again this COVID thing jumped largely because of the BSF. It is not their fault because BSF is a very disciplined force and they would not do it deliberately, but it happened. So, on the whole, that is my observation. Not much more could have been done, but the public should have been more aware of it. Public should have been more aware of it, that is my feeling.
Do you have any suggestions to the government on how to, be more aggressive when it comes to tackling? Because we have seen neighboring Assam, in Guwahati, cases are rising every day by the hundreds. So we don't want to see such kind of a situation here.
Absolutely no. Assam is a more difficult situation because Assam, first thing, it's a bigger state. It is much higher density of population. Naturally, much more possibility of people getting infected. So, with Assam, naturally the situation is quite bad. Meghalaya should not have been that bad except for the fact that this wedding party and people not observing. You see, we are not by nature, we Indians, we are not a very disciplined people. I have seen in my own hometown of Kolkata also there has been this kind of thing galloping because people are not observing these things, which is why the Prime Minister, in a second broadcast to the nation, he had to tell the people that this relaxation of lockdown is not the time for for letting down your guard. True. You should be even more careful. True. But apparently people didn't take it to heart, and as a result of that, the disease has gone on unchecked. I personally don't know really. I mean, this is a matter for an expert. I personally don't know what could be done except for the people to understand that it is for them, for their own benefit, to be more careful, to observe social distances, to wear a mask, to wash their hands regularly, either with soap water or with sanitizing lotion, these things. That is all I can suggest.
So recently there was a very burning issue in Shillong where a few non-tribal youths were beaten up at Lausotun. So this incident had created quite a storm, and it again brought back that tension between tribals and non-tribals. The tension has always been there. We don't deny that. The simmering tension has always been there for many years now. And as governor, you had also taken a stand on this particular issue. You had spoken to the chief minister and maybe to the police as well. So, but one thing that caught the attention was your tweet, yesterday's tweet, where you said that when you spoke to the chief minister, you said it would be of no use for me. I'm not quoting verbatim, but paraphrasing.
Right, I know what you are referring to. Go ahead.
Yeah, it would not be of any use for me being governor if I cannot protect the rights of non-tribals. So I want you to say something on that, sir, because it has attracted a lot of attention.
It is very, very unfortunate, extremely unfortunate that in any part of India, Indians cannot live well, cannot live without fear. I had once remarked that the situation of non-tribals in Meghalaya is akin to that of the Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir in 1991, from where they were driven out, some 3.5 lakhs of them, and they are living in horrible penury. Now, yesterday I read a post-edit written by a gentleman called Albert Tharyang. About this, the writing was quite good. On the whole, the article was very responsible, but he had mildly criticized me, saying that this is not an appropriate parallel because the situation in Kashmir was much worse. You see, I agree that the situation in Kashmir was much worse, but that is no reason to draw comfort. The point is, we must accept the position that every Indian should be free to live without fear in any part of India. And the sovereign functions of the state. What are the sovereign functions? Principally policing and collection of taxes. The sovereign function of the state cannot be delegated, cannot be outsourced to any non-government body, nor can any non-government body usurp these functions from the government. This is something which I feel very, very strongly about, and this is something on which I shall insist on the state government, that this outsourcing thing, there have been unfortunate incidents of that must stop. Secondly, when there is this kind of tribal, non-tribal tension, it must be nipped in the bud. All political considerations must take a back seat. First, the right of every Indian to live in any part of India, every Indian is equal, except to the extent his rights are abridged by law. Say, for instance, in Meghalaya, non-tribals are not allowed to buy land in certain parts. That is done by law, so one can't quarrel about it. But a person cannot walk about the streets, or he can't play basketball somewhere If somebody objects to that and somebody tries to enforce it by muscle power, by brute force, I as governor will never accept it. And I will not be discharging the functions of a governor if I don't take all possible steps to stop it. I have impressed this thing upon the Chief Minister. He is a very well-meaning person. He has done his best, but unfortunately that is not good enough. More will need to be done. There have been very unfortunate things happening in Shillong while I have been governor here. I don't think in the whole of India there is any instance where the Raj Bhavan has been gheraued by a mob. No Raj Bhavan in India has ever been gheraued by a mob, except the Shillong Raj Bhavan in December, last December. But I stood here, and while this chanting of slogans was going on outside, I stood here in the garden. I got a call from a certain minister, and I told him that you do your function. At that time, Chief Minister wasn't here. He had gone to Delhi. But a certain minister called me and made certain requests. So I said, nothing doing. You first make sure that these people are dispersed. I had got in touch with the army also. I got in touch with the central forces, but I didn't mobilize them. I just said that I want to make sure that these people are dispersed. That is the most important thing. See, so long as I am governor, I will make sure that every Indian in this state has a right to live on as an Indian, as an equal citizen of India, except to the extent, as I said, rights are abridged by law. And I shall do everything in my power to ensure that. I cannot be more specific, obviously, than that. But this is where I stand. I feel very strongly about it. What had happened in Lasatum is most unfortunate in view of the fact that these disturbances had subsided. There was this incident in Ishamati village. Then after that, the government took some steps. There was some incident in the Badawazar Yudu, and there also one person was nabbed. Then I thought that this thing had subsided. But it has apparently not subsided. So action will have to be taken by the government, both action on the law and order front and the political front. Politically, the government will have to restore the morale of the non-tribals here and tell the tribals that the non-tribals are not your enemies. The non-tribals are equal citizens here, tribals and non-tribals. See, this is such a pernicious thing that if today this kind of thing goes on happening, and then all the non-tribals leave this place, do you think that it will stop? It will not stop. Tomorrow, once people get a taste of it, then Khasi will fight Jaintia. Khasi will fight Garo. Then one clan will fight another. This kind of thing is going to happen. So this has got to be stopped. There is no way of handling it with kid gloves. This will have to be stopped. And I shall do, as I said, I shall do everything in my power to do it. But obviously, I would prefer the elected government to do it. It is their job to do it, they must do it. That is what I'm trying to put across to the government.
Yes, coming back to the protests last year, I think people of the state were expecting you as governor to be with them when they were opposing the CEA. In the sense, they wanted you to speak on their behalf to the central government, to express the sentiments that they were against the CEA. But then your tweets, your speeches here and there showed that you already had this mind that no, CEA was a good law and it should be implemented and that nothing would happen to Meghalaya. So people from there, they started seeing you as anti-tribal. They say that our governor, instead of being on our side, he's taking the side of the central government and he's being anti-tribal. What do you have to say on this, sir?
But I am not a political person here. I have not been elected by the people here. I am a constitutional functionary put here by the President of India in order to make sure that the constitution works properly here. The CAA is law. When it was CAB, it was a bill. The CAA is law. So once it is law, the law will have to be obeyed. Now, if the people of the state, rightly or wrongly, have a grouse against it, they can take it through the political channels. They have 2 MPs here, 2 Lok Sabha MPs, 1 Rajya Sabha MP. These people can speak at the parliament and they can make sure that their voices are heard. This is not to be told by the governor, because this is not a constitutional duty of the governor to put it across, to put the so-called view of the... I have no idea. I mean, I have no way of knowing how many people are behind this. Some people they're definitely behind this. I mean, against CA. Some people may be in favor of CA.
Yes, that's true.
So, this is the situation. I have no locus standi in this respect. The job is to be done by the elected representatives of the people here, the 2 Lok Sabha MPs and 1 Rajya Sabha MP. They must do it, not the governor.
So what do you have to say?
Having said that, I have still not understood what the people of this state have got against the CAA. You think people will infiltrate into the state from Bangladesh? Why should people infiltrate into the state? There are at least 5 reasons why they will not. Number 1 is, from the ethnic differences, you can immediately tell who is who. Whether this person is from Bangladesh or this person is a tribal, Meghalaya tribal. There are other tribals also, but they are not considered, for instance, this Kuki, Dimasa, these Rabha, these people are also tribals, but they are not considered tribals in Meghalaya. But from the looks first, secondly by the language, you can make out. Secondly, thirdly, there are self-government organizations in Meghalaya, like the Darbar Shrang, Darbar Dung, all these things here. They can immediately tell if some infiltrator has come here. So why should anyone risk to come here? Fourthly, what is the attraction for which they will come here? Actually, people from this state are going away and working elsewhere. They are working, I mean, I know women, a large number of women who are working as from this state who are working as nurses elsewhere. Some of them work as laborers, some of them work as in teaching professions, such like. But lately, have you seen any people being attracted by the possibilities of the state and coming here? No, because there is no such thing which will attract people here. Central government functionaries are there. Say, for instance, the BSF, the CRP, these functionaries will be there. But otherwise, why should anyone come from outside and settle down, infiltrate into Meghalaya and settle down here? So CAA is totally irrelevant to Meghalaya. It has got no application to Meghalaya. It has application to Assam, it has application to West Bengal, it has application to a lot of other states in India. But in Meghalaya, it is of no consequence at all. Whether there is a CAA or there is no CAA will not make any difference to the people, tribal or non-tribal people of the state of Meghalaya. This is the situation as I see it. Now, I have argued this thing in private with a lot of people. Today I'm saying it out in public because the CAA is now law, and as far as I can see, the resistance has also subsided against it. Because perhaps the people have realized that they have got nothing to gain or lose from CAA. It is irrelevant. So, whenever I have had an argument with people, nobody has been able to refute it. I tell them that CAA is something which is intended to regularize certain people who have come from Bangladesh or Pakistan. Now, who will come to Bangladesh or Pakistan and settle down in Meghalaya? Simple question.
So what about this allegation by our tribal friends that you are anti-tribal through your tweets, your messages?
So all that I can say is nonsense. It's
Because they
absolute
say
nonsense.
that you condemn one incident but you don't
Which
condemn
incident?
the other.
I condemn one incident, that is bullying of non-tribals by tribals. Has there been any case of tribals being bullied by non-tribals?
Yes, sir, we have had cases where tribals
Where?
were beaten up. Here in Shillong, sir.
Tribals are beaten up by non-tribals.
Allegedly, sir.
Never heard of it.
Since the
At least
cases are
not
going on,
during
so I'm using the word
my
allegedly.
governorship. Certainly not during my governorship.
No, sir, obviously during your governorship also, sir.
During my governorship.
I mean, these are stray incidents, like what happened in
I have never heard any such thing.
Lausoton, which was a stray incident.
Yeah.
So there are stray incidents
I
also.
am not aware of any such incident. I have not read of any such incident in the papers or the media. So I cannot comment on it. I cannot say that factually you are correct. If you can show me such incidents, I shall certainly condemn them.
Yeah, there have been reports in the media, sir.
I have not seen anything. I read at least 3-4 newspapers. I read the Shillong Times, I read the Highland Times, I read the Sentinel, I read the Meghalaya, what is that called? Meghalaya Times or whatever. I read 4 newspapers in the morning. I never found any such thing before. This is all news to me, what you are just now telling.
No, what I'm referring to, these are stray incidents, like what
No,
happened
no,
in
no, this is
Lausoton.
what you are referring to
Sir.
is a non-existent incident.
No,
It never
exists.
happened.
It exists.
So far as I am concerned, it never happened. Otherwise, why wasn't it reported? And if it was reported, then why didn't I read it? It is impossible for me to have missed it. Otherwise, the government would have brought it to my notice.
Fine, sir.
I get to get input from, no, I'm quite serious because this is, I have never heard such outlandish allegation before.
No, there are reports. I mean,
There are reports, you say. I have never seen any such report. You say that there are reports.
Yes, I'm
Reports
saying.
where? Where
In
did it
India,
happen?
huh?
Who beat who up?
I mean, some non-tribals, allegedly. I'm using the word allegedly.
No,
because
I
these are not
perfectly
proven.
understand that you are doing it saying allegedly, and that is by way of abundant caution, but I am saying that I have never heard of such a thing before. I find it totally an outlandish allegation.
So coming back to your role as governor,
Yes.
don't you think that it's time we come up with a solution to bridge the gap between tribals and non-tribals? Because as you said, we have to exist together because we are all citizens of this country, ruled under one constitution. But how to bridge the gap and bridge
I don't understand. Before 1979, there was no gap. Before 1979, I and my family have been associated with this town, as I told you, for nearly a century. I have never heard of any such difference, any such tension between tribals and non-tribals. We used to play with Khasi boys. We used to have football matches in a little bit of a clearing just after you cross the bridge which leads to Pasteur Institute. On the left side there used to be a clearing. I don't know if it's still there. We used to have football matches over there. Boys from Maukhar, Jaya, Olaidom, those places. We never heard of any such thing before. Suddenly in 1979 there was this horrible riot. Why did it happen? Because some people, by whipping up these tensions, they wanted to make political capital out of it. I'm not going to name them. I know perfectly who they are, what they are, why they did it. But it is enough to say that they did it out of very nefarious and political motives. So what is needed, as far as I can see, is because 99.9% of tribals and non-tribals both are peace-loving. They want to go about their own business. This 0.001%, they want to make political capital out of this difference. So they are doing it. And then once these tensions are whipped up, then a large number of people lose their senses and do things like that. You see, from my own sources, about this Lao Tse Tung incident, I heard that a person, he had received, one of the boys had received 40 stitches and his arm was broken. Another person was hit on the head. He also received a lot of stitches. Now why? Why should this be? Some people are trying to, some Dorwar Shillong is trying to say that this is, no. This is not tribal versus non-tribal. Of course this is not tribal versus non-tribal. It is as clear as daylight that it is tribal versus non-tribal. And somebody else, some horrible person has whipped it up. Otherwise, why should the tribals have anything against non-tribal boys playing basketball in Lao Tse Tung? I don't see any reason. All that they could have said is, you get out of here. We want to play here. That should have been enough. But they attacked them with iron rods, construction implements. Somebody obviously excited them. So what is needed right now is to single out these elements and put them behind the bars. Then the peaceful people, who are 99.9% among both tribals and non-tribals, they will rest easy. This is the solution.
One last question.
Yes, please.
You are a social media warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, you are very, you are unorthodox. I can say like you are an unorthodox head of state, where you take on your trolls, you put out your own views. People, they criticize you, you criticize them back. So how has this journey on social media been? Because it's still
I think social media has been a sort of a boon to people, because formerly we had to put up with the tyranny of the mainstream media. I've been in politics for 30 years. Then for the last 5 years I've been out of active politics, ever since I became governor. Before social media came into being, I have seen what the tyranny of mainstream media is. Let me not name names, but in my home state, the state was in the forefront of industry in the whole of India until the 1960s. Today possibly it will rank 14th or 15th. There was a time when people from all over the country used to flock to the state in search of employment. Nowadays you find a whole lot of these expresses, Corona expresses, coming from all over the country, bringing laborers from West Bengal who had gone to work in other states. Now, who reduced the state to this condition? We all know who did it. I won't name them. But at that time we used to see that the mainstream media used to butter them up. Why? Because what they did is, first thing, at one point of time, one branch of mainstream media, at that time there was practically no TV. It was only paper. paper used to criticize them. So this government, they ran trade unions. They whipped up the trade unions, they organized a trade union among the newspaper vendors and made sure that no newspaper vendor would distribute copies of that newspaper. Secondly, newspapers, they survive on advertisements. They kept on, government pressure can be very effective because everybody is dependent on the government in some way or other. They kept on pressuring commercial organizations, industries not to advertise in that paper. So what could that paper do? That paper went and in favor of the government. And then after that they started buttering up the government in a most shameful manner. We saw it. Now that cannot be done in the age of social media because every person has a right to be heard. The social media is a great thing. Now I was active in social media before I became governor. Then I continued to be active, but you will notice that I have never made a direct political tweet about the contemporary political situation. What happened 30 years back, 40 years back, yes, I have. But not about what had happened in the last 5 years. So, a lot of people have said, you can't do this, you are the governor. So I said, show me the rule which says I can't do this. I know the rules, I know the constitution, I know what has been said where, about what I can do. Basically, a governor is supposed to do only one thing. That is, be advised by the elected state government. And if he cannot, for some reason, in his good conscience, be advised, then he has to bring it to the notice of the central government. Further action to be taken by the central government. And he has two rights. One is the right to suggest, the other is the right to be informed. When I was in Tripura, the government, most of the time, was hostile to my own political beliefs. But I never had a fight with them. Never, not one quarrel. I had differences of opinion, but no quarrel. Nor here. Here, of course, the relationship is much better than what it used to be in Tripura. But I have never had any quarrel. So I have satisfied all my constitutional requirements. Beyond that, why I can't open my mouth on social media, why I should just sit in the Raj Bhavan like a wallflower, I have not been able to figure out. Nobody has been able to tell me. And I respect other people's opinions, but I'll be guided by my own.
So on that note, sir,
Thank
wish
you
you the very
much.
best and thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.